Hej och hjärtligt välkomna ska ni vara till Invest Live. I denna sändning som presenteras av Investor Target, Direkt Studios, Stockpicker och det deltagande bolaget kommer vi att få lyssna på ett mycket intressant bolag inom läkemedel och hälsovård, nämligen ODI Pharma. ODI Pharma är en av få och i Norden listade producenter och leverantörer av medicinska cannabisprodukter. Du som tittar live kan som alltid när vi sänder ställa dina frågor, och den här gången blir det då till ordföranden och huvudägaren Volker Wiederrich. Du kan ställa dina frågor direkt till honom, och det gör du i chattfältet, så ska vi ta dem efter presentationen. Presentationen kommer nu att fortsätta på engelska. Hello Volker, how are things?
Hello, I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. Should be a real pleasure. Volker, you just released your full year results, and with that, the quarterly. Please take us through your presentation.
Thank you. So my name is Volker Wiederrich. I'm the chairman of ODI Pharma. ODI Pharma is a company specialized on medicinal cannabis. For those who do not know us yet, we supply medicinal grade cannabis products to pharmaceutical companies. We IPO'd on the stock market on Spotlight already in 2020. We were founded in 2018. So we've been around for quite a while now, 6 years, working hard in establishing cannabis as a medicine, as it's started only 10 years ago, the industry kind of, and we're working hard on make this a alternative choice for patients that suffer some indications where cannabis contributes substantially to their well-being. So initially we focused on the Eastern European markets, primarily Poland, and successfully implemented over the last years our business strategy. I will go back to the business strategy in a little bit, but for now I would like to highlight some points about the market, how we see it. Obviously, this is the bright side of the cannabis market you see on this slide. Cannabis been perceived very well over the last years. It gained momentum. It is a product that is appreciated by many patients. Here the data you see is from the US and Canada, and also the industry grew exponentially, as you see at the bottom right corner, not only in the medicinal sector, but also in the recreational market in the US and Canada, etc. So it's been a tremendous trip for the cannabis industry over the last years. However, on the downside, the result of this is also that you have diminishing average retail prices. So they went down by around 30% between 2021 and 2023. Over the last year, they fell further. So it's a fair assumption to say that they decreased by around 50% over the last 4 years. At the same time, as most of the investors will have noticed over the last years, the cannabis stocks were hyped since 2014, back in 2018 when Germany legalized medicinal cannabis. But ever since, the share price just dropped. And the two main reasons for that, there's plenty of reasons, but the two main reasons are diminishing prices and the amount of producers. So you see on the right hand side that this is an example from Canada, that in the beginning of 2013, 2014, you maybe had 10 producers that supplied the market with medicinal cannabis. This now increased after the legalization of the product in Canada up to almost 1,000 of producers. So it's fair to say that the industry became very, very competitive over the last years with the obvious consequences here expressed as prices and quantities of products and manufacturers. So as I said earlier, we are focused on the Eastern European market, where Poland is our first key market where we supply products. It took us a very long time to get our products registered there, as the barriers of entry to that market are fairly high. But what we've seen since we started our business, which, let's take it from our IPO 2020, there were basically only 7,000 prescriptions issued by doctors to patients in the market over the whole year. Now in 2023, it reached already 280,000 prescriptions. So a massive increase, which again shows that the product is well received by the patients and it's actually used as a substitute or complementary to traditional medication. Also, the amount of products, obviously in line with the amount of prescriptions, the amount of products that were distributed via pharmacies increased substantially. From 2020, it was around 49 kilograms a year, where it's now 4,600 kilograms in the last year, 2023. And this year, it will be even more. So the market hasn't stopped yet. It's just growing and growing and growing. At the same time, what differentiates the Polish market a little bit from international markets is that the barriers of entry are so high, given the product requirements in terms of quality, etc. It is very limited in terms of suppliers. So there are basically only 28 products in the market right now, provided by 13 different companies. And this is kind of a unique place where we try to benefit from. So going back to our business model, how do we do our business? We are a very asset-light business. So we do not have a cultivation facility. We do not grow ourselves. We outsource the things we can as much as possible. So in the end, we try to keep our costs at a very low level, which allows us to scale our business. So for us, it's not much of a difference whether we ship 10 kilos or whether we sell 100 kilos. For us, it's basically the same process and the same input we have to provide. Also, we chose not to, as I said, we don't have a cultivation facility, meaning we do not grow our own products. We rely on strong partners in the market. So we select the products from some of the biggest cannabis cultivators globally. And also on the other side, we choose not to have our own sales teams in the market, but we sell basically to the biggest distributors and pharmaceutical companies in these markets. So assuming this middleman position, if you want to call it like that, we have access to the most innovative and broadest product range when it comes to cannabis products. And it allows us to work with our customers, which provide the sales capacities in these markets. With the Eastern Europe set, this is under an 8.5 years agreement exclusively with very strong partner in the Eastern European market. But at the same time, we're taking one country by the next in these markets, because the registration processes and introduction of these products, it takes its time. So one by one. At the same time, we're expanding into new markets where we think we find a business model that makes sense. And obviously, for each market, we have to alter our business model a little bit. But once we find an opportunity, we enter new markets. So as Carlo already said, we published this morning our year-end report. As you can see here on this slide, our revenues stayed 25 million over the last financial year, which is an increase of more than 14,000% to the previous year. You can read from that number, obviously, that the business really started off now. It's worthwhile to mention that around 90% of these revenues were only done within 2 quarters of the 4. So there's some fluctuation. We have big orders, so we are not selling continuously in small orders, but we're selling only big orders, and they come in, not daily, but so sometimes 1 quarter is more, 1 quarter it's less. We were able to generate a profit from these revenues. This is the income before taxes, amounted to 550,000 Swedish kroners. And I think given how our setup works and given our contracts, we're thinking that it will carry on like this or improve. So again, some infos about us. We're listed on Spotlight, stickers ODI, and the easing code you see here. We also have an analyst covering our stock. It's done by Analyst Group. And that's our short presentation. And I think we will have way more time on the Q&A to answer in detail questions.
Thank you, Volker. Very intriguing and interesting presentation here. Could I just start by making one question here? Swedish listed company, headquartered in Stockholm, but with a market in Europe. How did that happen?
It's a long story. I tried to cut it short. So the company started in Switzerland, where myself and the other founding partner, Direkt Studios, we met there. We started the ODI concept back in the last decade. And Direkt is a resident of Sweden. There's 3 big shareholders in the company. It's myself, Direkt, and Niklas. Niklas is a Swedish national as well. So at the time when we wanted to list the company, the world was still a different one. Cannabis was in its really early days in Europe, and to implement our strategic plans, we wanted to raise money through the stock market to actually be able to implement the business strategy. Back then, however, there was only 2 companies in Europe, 2 companies that focus on cannabis listed, and they were listed in Sweden. So it was the easiest way forward to get listed before convincing other exchanges and other investment banks. We had the platform there already in Sweden. Sweden was way ahead of all the other markets. So we decided to list in Sweden, which is in line with what we are and what we represent. So that was the reason we did it in Sweden.
Flattering for the Swedish investor and the Swedish market, I take it. You mentioned a little bit of legislation. How would you? What's your opinion about how this sector is treated by the authorities, and which authorities are regulating you? Are we talking about Swedish regulations, as you are a Swedish company, or is there an EU concept here? And this is interesting to just put it into context because you compared to the US and Canada here.
Well, obviously, Europe is not one single cannabis market, unfortunately. Every country has its own legislation, has its own regulatory body, has its own rules, has its own market structure. So every market differs from the other substantially. That's why it's so important. If we decide to go into another market, we need to make sure that the strategy works in that market and we have the right partners in place. So it's quite a tremendous work. The regulators in some countries, they do not know what to do with the cannabis product. Others have a very clear view and have implemented it. We are happy that the Polish market has actually a really clear view on how they want to do it and how they implemented it. And I think for patients, it's one of the easiest markets in Europe to get treated with cannabis. But again, its regulation is, from a business perspective, it's very tough work. And I'd say most of our time we spend with regulation to implement what we want to do, and it's not an easy job.
But if one would like to say that the glass is half full rather than half empty, one could say that that is a barrier of entry for anyone who would like to compete with you in this area. Or am I jumping ahead of myself now?
No, I think you're absolutely right. We spend a hell of a lot of time to get our products registered and jump over all these hurdles to get it done. It took longer than expected, but now that we're in, it helped us to implement the business that quickly over the last year and assume a main market role in this market, to be a main player. And yes, is it easy for people to replicate this in a short time? I doubt it. So I think, yes, you're right. It helped us a lot that we started early with this work in this market, and now we benefit from being in that position.
Given the many areas and diseases cannabis can provide a solution and or relief to, what is the relationship with Big Pharma? Are you a threat or a complement? You mentioned Big Pharma and partners, but how do they view you?
Our business model implies that we are a supplier of cannabis products to Big Pharma, actually. So you might think that Big Pharma looks at the cannabis industry as, a competition to their traditional medicine, which it actually is, but at the same time, they understand that it's a complementary product to what they sell. Because the demand, I had this on the previous slides, that the demand is just there. The people want the product as an alternative medication, and hence the Big Pharma understands it needs to, steer into that direction and to be part of this industry as well. And that's what they do. So I think it's a complementary product for them, and we are supplying and helping them to getting into this industry as smooth as possible and quickly as possible.
So if they would need the underlying product here, they will come to you?
I hope so, yeah.
Asset-light infrastructure, which means in a layman's term, is that you don't own the crops, as it were. How do you secure the underlying products? Do you have long-term contracts, or how does it work?
Yes, it's been established over 6-7 years, these relationships. So yeah, it's a long-term arrangement with them. For us, it's key to have, given the price pressure you have on this market and the differences in quality, and with all these manufacturers that come and grow products, we only rely on high-end products, the most innovative firms that can provide also the quantities that are needed. Because as I said, we're not shipping 5 kilos here and 5 kilos there, but it's bigger orders, and we need to rely on the biggest manufacturers globally that can easily produce whatever quantity we need in the given time. Yes, it's been, as said, long-term relationships, and that's what we need to implement our business model.
And also, you were mentioning to one of your slides, but I believe that was in Canada, when the number of producers have gone up, and then the prices come down for the underlying asset or the crop, as it were, in that respect. So I have to expose my ignorance here and say, is there a correlation with the price per kilo in Canada and in Europe, or are there two separate price ways? So because basically what I'm driving at here, if there's more producers, then must be better for you because the underlying product is cheaper, or it will not be more expensive.
I believe given that you have so many imports still, even in countries like Germany, which actually have their own production facilities. However, there's a huge amount of imported products that come from places like Canada, but also South America or South Africa as well. So the global prices are pretty much aligned. There's not many fluctuations. There are some exemptions, like for instance, the Polish market, given they have restrictions on which products can be imported. And as mentioned, there's less products available there. But on a global scale, I would say these prices are more or less aligned. So everybody had to lower prices over the last years. And it's potentially even continue to happen like this.
Thank you. And we got a couple of questions here regarding markets and costs. So I will just quote them here. You touch on the scalable business model. Could you elaborate on your view on the operating cost going forward as you scale up your business? And I do believe you said that it wouldn't necessarily increase apart from, bigger volumes is perhaps a bigger cost per se, but wouldn't increase it.
Well, our biggest cost is obviously the cost of goods sold as we buy them and then sell them. But other than that, as I said, the scalability allows us to it doesn't make a difference whether we sell 10 kilos or 100 kilos. It's just the transport cost goes up. But I think you should find a beneficial effect on the income from increasing amounts as our costs wouldn't increase that much as we can, sell more, basically. So.
And remind us, in what countries are you now actively selling your products?
We sold so far in Poland, and that's basically almost all of our revenues. We done small deliveries to Switzerland, and we are now entering through our existing relationships and potential new ones. We are looking to enter new markets.
And the interesting segue there is just to look at the tremendous sales growth that you had. What do you say, 14,000% increase or something like that. And you also mentioned Analyst Group here, who has a report out. And obviously it will be tricky for you to comment their target price of 17 Swedish krona per share in a normal scenario. But if I rephrase the question and say they have an assumption of sales for next year of an approximately 70 million SEK, would you say that is achievable?
I would say I need to be cautious now.
Yes.
I would say it's a fair assessment. I obviously cannot verify it, but let's say over the last two quarters in basically 2024, Q1 and Q2 accounted for most of the revenue we made. Before that, there was even a quarter without any revenue. So if you assume that we want to get a decent market share in the Polish market alone, without considering the other markets, and we only just started, and we have a really strong partner on our side to tackle the Polish market, I think I think that's how they came up with that number.
And you're quite happy with the partner you have in Poland because it seems like you made the inroads that you expected to do. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, that's fair to say.
Right. And what should be the next news flow from you? What can we expect? And how would you like, or what would you like the stock market to look, particularly when it comes to ODI Pharma?
Well, obviously, we try to continue to grow our existing business now, and we want to enter new markets. But we won't enter markets if we don't have a clear strategy and the right partners on board to not only replicate. There might be some adjustments, but we want to find another, let's call it sweet enter into the market that makes sense for us without the heavy load of investing a lot of money to upfront to make something happen. So this is the strategic plan, and that's what we want to implement over the next quarters.
But it seems like obviously your strategy in Poland is working well, more than fine, excellent, I would say. But patience should be a virtue here, because you are obviously in the hands of the authorities, as it were. But we should watch for new market entrances, and Poland would be, let's say, an ongoing business. Is that the interpretation we should leave this presentation
Correct.
with? Oh.
Yes, correct. That's correct.
Excellent. Thank you, Volker. Very interesting and intriguing and a very, let's say, odd business, which is definitely here to stay. So we wish you the best of luck, not that you need it. And thank you for this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Carlo. Thank you.
Och vi säger tack till er som har tittat, och ni som tittade live här och ställer frågor riktar vi också ett speciellt tack. På återseende. Hej då!